So, hello everyone, and thank you, Natalie, for your kind words. I thank everyone for this opportunity to be here because this has been great. I love picture books, and having the chance to work with them has just been amazing. So let's start. We have our group, which has a member from each partner country of the project. Norway, we have Beat, we have Nair, who was our mentor, myself, Rafaela from Italy, Sina from Germany, and Job from the Netherlands. We all started in November, but then only myself, Rafaela, and Beata managed to implement the kit. Okay, but when we started in November, we all had a common destination. We were supposed to design a kit aimed at upper primary children aged from 9 to 12, and we wanted to promote socially responsible behavior in the interaction with others, which is focal field 1, and to reinforce a sense of belonging and knowing about or respecting one's own other and heritage cultures, which is focal field 3. And the ICE outcomes that we were looking for are to relate to and emphasize with others, to identify differences and similarities between themselves and their peers, reflect about the importance of knowing one world, to explore ways to communicate with people from around the world, be aware of stereotypes and find ways to overcome or challenge them, and finally to consider how to include everyone in the community. This book, which was our starting point, same but different, allowed us to do all this following our own ways, because not all the teachers did the same activities, so you have a lot of variety, so you can choose your own path when you are working with it. But let's start with the book. Its author and illustrator is Jenny Sukoteski-Shaw, and the publisher is Crisio Ottaviano Books, and the book was first released in 2011. And it has won 4 different awards, as you can read. So it's a well-known and valued book. And then talking about the stages, activities, and the experiences we had in class around this book. As all the other kids, we have pre-reading activities that were designed to motivate and set the mood for the reading. In my case, I chose this one, identifying all the new ways to communicate. We looked at this image and we saw that there are different ways to communicate with people across the world, and that mostly kids nowadays use the internet, namely social media, to communicate, but letters are still present in their reality, so they know how to send letters or read letters once in a while. Beat and Rafaela decided to do a different activity. They decided to work on the topic same and different. And the students organized games in which they moved around the classroom to find similarities and differences in each other. And they would have to stop whenever they found 2 similarities and one difference within the class. Then we moved on to stamp exploration. We looked at stamps from different countries. In this case, I only have Portuguese stamps and Italian ones. And we looked at the cultural aspects in them. Obviously, we identified famous people, writers in the Portuguese case, monuments, sports, art, any other possibilities like fauna and flora, all that was possible. So I tried to choose some that the kids already knew and could easily identify, but I also tried to include a variety so that they could see that culture is not only about people or monuments. And then we started with the book. We started with by looking at the paratextual features to predict the plot. And if you look at the dust jacket, it's quite easy to realize what the topic is going to be. We have two different kids in different countries, and probably the book is going to talk about how they're going to meet or how they're going to relate to each other. And obviously, we have the possibility to do this and see that they are in the opposite parts of the world. Probably one in a big city and the other one probably in a rural area. And then, obviously, we looked at the other aspects like the author, the awards, the title, obviously, and children were invited to think about the title. Why same, but different? And they easily arrived to the conclusion that there were probably more similarities between these two boys than differences, because we have the word same twice and different only once. Then we saw that the book cover is different. And once again, we see the two boys, the main characters, but we also see they are reading this book. And at the back, we realize that the stamps and the ways to communicate is going to be part of this book, because we have these two boys sending letters, posting them. And looking at the end papers, we see that stamps are related to the previous work we had done. And children were invited to look at the stamps carefully and try to identify the countries where the boys came from. They could easily recognize the Stars and the Stripes from the United States, since we had already looked at it at the beginning of the year. And they immediately recognize India because they have Gandhi. And my students are participating in a citizenship project called Gandhi. So they easily knew that Gandhi was from India, so it was quite easy. Nevertheless, we kept on looking at the other aspect, cultural aspects that were here in these stamps. We have animals, we have the flora, we have Martin Luther King and Gandhi, we have the flags, Taj Mahal, and snakes. So,
Monica,
okay.
You're not going to have enough time.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Then, while reading aloud, we easily related these topics that are introduced in the book with the content students are dealing with. We talked about school, free time activities, family, pets and farm animals, their hometown, school buses, the alphabet, and how to greet friends. And we explored the differences, and we even considered their own reality at school. Not only these two boys' realities and cultural aspects, but the children's cultural aspects as well. And then, as this was very easy to identify, but then, as Nai said, we had to mediate other aspects, namely the aspect of tackling stereotypes, because if you look at the dust jacket, you see that Elliot, the American boy, comes from a big city full of skyscrapers, which is the idea most of us have of the United States. And that Kailash comes from a rural area with lots of buildings that we easily associate with India and have farm animals and sacred cows and nothing more than that. So it's a bit a bit of a stereotype. So we had to think of, once again, why this title, same, but different, and if the children came from two different worlds, in fact. And then we reflected upon these topics. Are all the children in the US and India like Elliot and Kailash, or can they, for instance, an Indian child live in a big city, or Elliot live in a rural area in the US? So we thought about this and discussed these ideas, and we thought that even the students in the same class had similar and different things to talk about. So routines, traditions, all these can vary even within a certain space, which lead us to the after reading aloud activities. Students in the 3 countries were invited to draw stamps. And they drew stamps talking about their personal worlds. And if you look at the stamps, you easily recognize the countries they are from. And I'll explain why. In Italy, we have stamps that combine the cultural aspects of the country and their own tastes. If you look at Norway, you'll see things that are more identifying the features of the country, like the eagle, or even the northern light, or the fjords and all that. If you look at the Portuguese stamps, and apart from the first one, which has fado, court, and the Portuguese flag, you'll see that all the others are related to their own personal worlds. Friends, family, their own town, and even their own bedrooms. So the way we looked at the concept of world is different. And then we managed to articulate our project with other school projects, namely in Italy, the Unpesox Day, to show that different but the same. And in Portugal, as I've already told you, we participate in this Gandhi project for the 2nd time, and we had pre-primary kids and primary kids drawing stamps, and they were actually printed as stamps after they have been selected. So you can see this one is from the primary school and the other one is from pre-primary school. Okay, and then we also exchanged letters with each other. But since we are all same but different, we had to choose something that is common to all of my kids. And we started by talking about our own town and our school. So we focused on the place where the school is, their classroom activities, school games and all that. And obviously the place where Mação is, in the center of Portugal. And then Rafa from Italy answered us and gave us more or less the same information. And Beat talked about their life in Norway, and we see that even in Portugal, we had a warm winter and spring. In Norway, they have snow and they have to ski as a subject. Moving on, we shared our stamps as well, and Rafa created a game for my kids. They had a text and they had a stamp, and they have to move around in order to match the stamps and the text. So it was designed as a game which included reading and interpreting as well. And then the taking action cycle after all these activities. we wanted to celebrate diversity by creating a common world, because in fact we all live and share a common world if we're all different. So it all started as a classroom activity. You can see that in the second picture, my students are drawing something that is relevant for them and for their world. Then you can see two students moving to the other primary classes to share the world and invite them to join and complete the world. And finally, we moved from the primary school to the secondary school, and we had all the students and all the community in general invited to draw something that is relevant for them. And since I'm a huge fan of picture books, as I've already said, I asked the town hall librarian to let me read some picture books because in English, because we welcomed some Ukrainian refugees, and as some of my colleagues already said, kids are thinking about the war and how this affects their own life and how they manage and deal with this. So I chose this first book, My Name is Not Refugee, and we openly discussed their fears around the topic of war, and they felt helpless, and I told them that being 10-year-old, they could not expect to be the ones to be solving this problem that even adults can't. So we just consider the possibilities of helping, minimizing them. My Name is Not Refugee was a message. They knew that they had to find information about these refugees that were in their place. They could not just think of them as refugees, but as individuals, and they could help by doing little things like smiling at them, asking for their name, playing with them, and they would be making the difference with these kids. And we also did this through the twinning platform. We shared material, and we made a video call with Italy. And then the kids had the opportunity to do some breaking the ice activities in which they introduced themselves and talked about likes and dislikes, and then they shared the product of their activities in the community. And as for our important takeaways, I didn't bring the head, heart, and hand because I thought this showed not only what the kids had to say, but also myself and the other teachers that participated in the project. We all learned a lot about picture books. We shared information about personal worlds, and we learned about each other's world. It raised our curiosity and our empathy towards others. It stimulated our creativity, not only my own as a teacher, but also my students' creativity. So we all gained a lot with this project. And then Beata said, working with a picture book, drawing and writing to you has been a great experience. And the kids really see that for writing letters, they need English. And they have studied geography in a more interesting way throughout this course. So we are not just dealing with citizenship, we are dealing with English and showing the purpose and the need of studying the language. And Rafa said, at first, students thought it was difficult to find similarities within their own classes. At the end of the project, they realized it was easier to find similarities than differences. They discovered they were in a class with a lot of diversity, and they were proud of it. With the design of the stamps, they shared their personal worlds and had how fun it was when they discovered they had the same football team, favorite animal, or color. And as for myself, I can say that working with picture books has been a fascinating experience. Students are motivated and eager to find out about themselves and students in other countries. They realized the importance of learning languages, of respecting, accepting, and valuing differences. They improve their cooperation, tolerance, and empathy. That is, they become better world citizens. And this is important because yesterday, after listening to Michael Byram, I realized that my own identity as a teacher is intimately connected with citizenship. I cannot see myself as a single language teacher. What really matters to me is what they learn through the English language. Okay, so to finish, just one more thing. I just want to thank all the commitment of the primary teacher who has always supported me and worked with me during this project, as well as the class, which were absolutely great. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. It was wonderful listening to you speaking about this experience. And I can confirm it was snowing in May in Norway. So that doesn't change. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, we do. Great, first of all. So wonderful comment. So we have a question. Did you post the letters or were they exchanged via the internet?
Well, at first Rafa wrote the traditional letters to be sent by mail, but they got lost. And we had to do them again, and we decided to exchange by mail because it was faster and certain that we would receive them. But the original idea was to actually send them by mail.
Yeah, that's excellent. There's another question. So how many synchronous e-twinning sessions did the students do?
Well, unfortunately, only one, and it was only possible to do it with Italy, because since I teach secondary students and primary students, I'm always moving from one school to the other, and my schedule was not compatible with the Italian or the Norwegian teachers. So I had to go on my free afternoon to talk to do this, so it was only possible to do one.
But I'm sure the students absolutely loved
definitely
their experience. Yeah. Right, so we have, oh yes, we have an oh no comment for the stamps, which is such a pity. But having actual stamps on them would have been so good for the students. Yeah. So another question. How easy did you find mediating the issues of stereotypes? An important question.
Well, I must say that it was really easy for me because this is what I do in secondary school all the time. So I just had to adapt. We had started the year with a story which is Say Hello, which has different languages and communities within the city. So they are used to being questioned and led to think about all these questions. For instance, when we were talking about the topic food during Christmas, we talked about cod, obviously, but I asked them and made them think, do we really all like cod? We all have cod prepared in the same way. So is this tradition applicable for everyone? So we are always thinking about these questions. So they are used to being faced with this, so it was no big issue.
Right, okay, just one very quick comment. The Norwegians are always reminding me that cod comes from Norway. So
and it does.
It does. Okay, thank you so much, Monica. It was a pleasure working with you.